Hello and welcome back to In Conversation With. And this week I am back with Jon Dunham, acclaimed producer, director, and cinematographer. Last time we talked all things Boston Marathon documentary, and this week we are here to give us a chance to look at his Spirit of the Marathon documentary. Jon, welcome back. I hope you're well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back.
So we talked about the 2014 Boston Marathon documentary last time. We're going to jump back to 2005 and relive an amazing year for the Chicago Marathon. What prompted you to make that documentary? I think that was your first documentary in running, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. I studied film at university, and as I was finishing up film school, I was running at that time also. We talked about earlier about the fact that I had run the Los Angeles Marathon when I was very young, and that
years old.
Yeah, I was 15 years old, and that became an annual tradition for me. I think I've run the LA Marathon maybe 12 times or something like that. So as I was finishing up film school, I was running the LA Marathon, and I was just totally in love with the marathon event. I started thinking, boy, I wonder if anybody has ever made a film about the marathon that tells the marathon story, generally, not specifically about the LA Marathon or the Chicago Marathon, just the marathon. And I started doing some research, and I found out that no, not really. They're outside of coverage of the Olympic races or, major city marathons like New York. Nobody had ever really told the marathon story. And I said, well, I want to do that. And I guess a little bit like, running my first marathon at 15 years old, I set out to make a film about the marathon kind of in a naive way, not having any idea how difficult it would be. And it was very challenging. It took 4 or 5 years to make the film. Most of the time spent was looking for the funding. But I was able to get there, eventually, I was incredibly fortunate with it because it premiered at the Chicago International Film Festival in 2007, and it won the Audience Award there. And that coincidentally was the weekend of the Chicago Marathon also. So it sold out 3 screenings just straight away, like a rock concert. And from there, it was, we found a distributor, and it was released in cinemas across the United States initially in early 2008, and was a huge success. And it grossed over $1 million in 2 nights. And for a documentary film, that's just extraordinary. Most documentaries never make anywhere near that kind of money. So it was a huge success, and it helped start my career. So that's kind of where it all started.
Wow. Now, where did the project take you in the world, and what were some of the standout memories from those travels?
Well, that film took me a little bit everywhere, and then in subsequent films I got to add to that also. But in Spirit of the Marathon specifically, obviously we did a lot of filming in Chicago. We filmed the Chicago Marathon in 2005. I had the opportunity to live in Chicago for a brief period while I was working on that, and just totally fell in love with the city of Chicago. It's just one of my absolute favorite cities to this day. And then outside of the United States, filmed some in Europe, obviously. I had the chance to go to Greece. I was young. I was in my mid-20s when I was doing this stuff. So I got to do a lot of cool travel that I'd never done before in my life. I went to Greece for the very first time and loved that. And we filmed in the UK a little bit. And we went down to Kenya, and that was just, an amazing experience to go visit Africa for the first time and film with, these great Kenyan runners. And I went to Japan for the first time also during that production, and that was just otherworldly. Such a unique experience to visit Japan for the first time. So it definitely helped ignite my interest in travel, making Spirit of the Marathon.
there's some great footage in Japan where now help me with the pronunciation, Njenga. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Daniel Jenga. Uh-huh.
Jenga's working in an office there, and it's such a strange meeting of cultures, and I can only imagine how it was going in and filming that. And on that point, I know that many runners aren't always comfortable in front of the camera, and especially letting a camera crew into your home, and not everybody is able to do that, but you really got inside some of those runners' stories and lives. So what's your secret to getting the most out of those athletes and making them feel comfortable and seeing the real them?
Well, a lot of it has to do with finding the right people to begin with. As you said, a lot of people aren't comfortable with it. There's a reason why I'm on the other side of the camera, not front of the camera, because I'm not a good actor. I don't, it's not for me. But people warm up to it. I mean, if you look at some of the early footage of Spirit of the Marathon, you can see stuff that's not in the film. But, raw footage, I remember, some of the amateur runners just kind of uncomfortable with having the camera around, and there were a lot of awkward moments. But little by little, as we did more filming, they got more used to it and kind of relaxed more with it. And Daniel was great. Daniel was really pretty natural with it from the start. Kenyans, a lot of times by nature, tend to be more reserved, soft-spoken, certainly. I had met Daniel, I kind of did everything with Daniel in reverse. So I first met Daniel in Chicago, and then I went and filmed with him in Japan. And I was with him for a couple of weeks in Japan, and we kind of started to develop the relationship there. And that was fun. I mean, he, again, not speaking any Japanese, but Daniel speaks Japanese. He was kind of my guide. I had this, this Kenyan runner taking me around Tokyo and, kind of helping me get around and stuff. And I remember he was kind of, after Japan, there were plans we were going to have a brief stay in Europe and then go and film with him, catch up with him again at home in Kenya. And he was kind of, during our time together in Japan, he was kind of prepping me for what it was going to be like to go to Africa. And he was asking me, what do I like to eat? And I shared with him that I was vegetarian. And he was just totally taken aback. He said, "No zebra?" He couldn't believe that I don't eat zebra.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's. And I presume you didn't try it. You didn't.
No.
Yeah. So
but when we did get to Kenya, he and his family were so hospitable, and they threw this huge party and this huge feast, and there were a lot of things that weren't vegetarian, but a lot of things that were. So, we ate fine while we were there.
what an amazing experience. So you focused a lot on Daniel in the documentary, and then Dina Castor, someone that we're very familiar with here at the majors. And when you were filming, obviously part of the story is their journey to that 2005 race, and those results you can't control. You can't script that, and they really had very different fortunes on that day. Did that change the outcome of the documentary and how you thought that would play out?
The documentary is very much what I had always hoped that it would be, but even much more, because as you said, you can't predict what's going to happen. You certainly can't predict when somebody's going to win the race. As we had the good fortune of Dina winning. For anybody that's not seen the film, I apologize for spoiling the ending. But yeah, I was very concerned about Dina earlier. As you see in the film, she has a pretty debilitating foot injury, and I think I thought that maybe she was just going to be out when she told me that she had basically broken her foot. But then I thought, okay, well let's just go with this and see what happens. And she was great. I mean, to her credit, obviously being injured as a professional athlete, I mean, it's a really a big deal. But she just she went with it, and she welcomed me up to Mammoth and to film with her, even while she was going through these very trying times. And we ended up getting really interesting stuff, like when she's, you know, training on her underwater treadmill, and
Yeah.
you know, kind of getting out and taking her first steps again after, you know, she's not been running for a while. And she just had such a great positive spirit all the way through that. And then it obviously paid off hugely at the end. So can't predict it, but it worked out magnificently. And in a strange way, you know, obviously it was wonderful that, you know, you hate to say it, but that Daniel didn't win the race, because you got to see kind of the other side of it also. You know, if both of them had won, then it would seem artificial.
Too good to be true in some ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, too Hollywood ending. But it ended up working out really well, because, you know, you had this great comeback story with Dina, you know, coming back from an injury, and then you had, you know, the Daniel just wanting that win so badly, and just not quite being able to do it. So yeah, it just tremendous fortune.
Now, comparing the Spirit of the Marathon documentary and then the Boston Marathon documentary, what were the biggest differences in how you approached them? And maybe it's because you were more experienced and had a different image of what it was going to be like. But, you know, how did you approach both of them, and what was different? What was the commonalities?
Yeah, obviously there wouldn't be Boston without Spirit of the Marathon. So it's interesting kind of to go back and look at how things unfolded. I mean, as I said, when I set out to make Spirit of the Marathon, I was just going to make that one film, and then that was going to be it for me. And films about running, I was just going to, you know, make other films about other stories that I wanted to tell. But I was so fortunate with Spirit of the Marathon that I had the opportunity. There were investors that were available to put money towards another film, and there were things that I had wanted to do in the first Spirit of the Marathon that I couldn't do because I didn't have enough money or time, or, you know, they were logistically complicated or whatever. So I said, okay, I'd like to make another Spirit of the Marathon and do some of the things that I wasn't able to do in the first film. So that became Spirit of the Marathon 2, which I did around the Rome Marathon. And then so Spirit of the Marathon 1 and 2 eventually ended up becoming just the training ground, so to speak, for Boston, which was a much bigger production. And you know, it cost more than both of the previous films put together. So I obviously learned a lot, you know, through the production of the previous films, and just hone my skills. And the races are very different also, and have very different histories, you know, Chicago and Boston. So you have to and the Boston story, you know, with what happened in 2013, you have to factor all of that into it. But absolutely, there's no way I could have made Boston without having had the experience of having made the previous two films. And quite frankly, I don't think that the Boston Athletic Association and everybody involved with the race ever would have entrusted me to make such a film had I not already kind of made my name, you know, in the running world, making these other films. So, you know, there's definitely very close ties between them.
It's been such a pleasure talking through the Boston Marathon documentary and the Spirit of the Marathon around Chicago. And the Chicago and Boston Challenge weeks for us have been really great celebrations of running. So these documentaries just top it all off. And for those, like I say, who haven't watched either or want to relive some of the memories, I highly recommend that you do so. And Jon, we hope to see you back at a major sometime soon behind the camera and back as part of our team. And that you stay safe and well in Italy until then.
Likewise, same to you.
Bye for now. Take care. Now is your chance to watch the Spirit of the Marathon documentary and relive the highs and lows of the 2005 Bank of America Chicago Marathon through the lens of Jon Dunham. The documentary is available at this very address for free from now until Sunday. All you need to do is enter this exclusive password, and you can sit back and enjoy the documentary and give yourself some extra inspiration if you are heading out this weekend to run any of the virtual Chicago Marathon events. Good luck if you are, happy watching, and we'll see you soon.